too. It's a pleasure to be here with you on this Sunday evening. We're starting a little bit later than usual. Hold on one second here. Okay, I think it's working. Okay, Brian. It's okay, Brian.
All
I
right.
think we're in good shape. It's a pleasure to be here with you in the Gateway Show. And are you there also, Ken? Can you hear me okay?
100%.
All right. But you know what this has been? You know what? Yeah, some people are just asking me what happened. Hold on just a
Is this a
second.
1 hour show or 45?
Yeah, it'll be here till yeah, till 7 o'clock our time, or just right almost 7. So my friends, um, it's a great pleasure to be with you here on this Sunday evening. I'm looking forward to this show tonight. Funny, life has lots of. I was just learning a little lesson from the person I'm going to interview with interview tonight, which is Ken Roschon. Is that the right way to pronounce it, Roschon?
You did very well.
Okay.
And you pronounce your name Robert.
Yeah, Robert Sidell. Good sense of humor there. Robert, yeah, I call people just call me Robert Sidell. No, yeah, I've heard a lot of different names, believe me, over the years. So, my friends, I just want you to know that it's a great pleasure to be here, and just through a kind of a quirk of things happening, the starting of my interview tonight didn't start till right now, which is about 6:18. But I was having a nice chance to talk to Ken, my guest tonight, and it just was a valuable process for me because his philosophy is, if you, how would you put it? You said you try to practice patience, right, Ken? Tell us how you were putting it.
I don't know if I practice it, I just be it. And if you're patient, you actually see everything as a gift. And if you don't practice it, you see everything as judgmental. I don't think it's quite that black and white, but it's in that realm.
Interesting. So, is that fairly easy for you to practice, or do you have to kind of, what do you have to do to make that happen?
I think it is a practice, and I think it's a shift in actually understanding what it is to be alive. And so, if you think about something that could jeopardize your life or someone you love, you'd be patient to actually see, can I please have the one thing I want back, which is the person I love or my health? And so, patience is about just allowing God to do his.
Interesting. Trying to put it into words again. So, what a lot of people are frustrated and impatient by a lot of things. So, what is it you think is different in your approach that lets you have that state of mind?
One is an upbringing by my mom, and she said, everything that is happening in your life is happening because it's supposed to. And also, everyone that is in your life is doing the best they can. I mean, think about that, Robert. If everyone's doing the best they can you fault them?
That's an interesting thought. That's a very interesting, Ken. That's a very interesting thought to think about. Hmm. But yet, having said that, hey Debbie, how you doing? It was kind of fun. By the way, for those of you listening on the radio, this is broadcasting the number one talk station in Las Vegas, but it's also simulcasting on Facebook. It's also available on YouTube later on. All you have to do is type in Gateway Podcast Sidell or Gateway Miracle Podcast, and you can listen to this recording later. So actually, I'm going to come back to this for a second, Ken. But first, I want to take a little time to introduce you, just because we got a little different starting of the show than normal. So we both got to have a little exercise, but it didn't seem like it was difficult for Ken. It wasn't too difficult for me either, partly because of his reassuring quality. But normally I would have been on earlier, but there was a little technical snafu, we'll call it that. So I was delayed in starting for about 15 minutes. And so here I am now on the radio, and I'm interviewing Ken Roschon. And so, Ken, tell us a little bit about. He's an author, a father, a traveler, a promoter. Maybe a promoter is a little wrong word for it. Probably not too far off. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Ken.
Well, before I do, I actually do want to address this because it's a really big point of actually living. And the point is, if you're not patient, you're probably in anxiety. And if you're not living patience, you're probably not living acceptance, and you're not living how God is actually the instrument of you being where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be, to receive what you're supposed to be, to do what you're supposed to do, to make a difference. So, Robert, I say with all sincerity, if you said we have an hour, I would have said great. And there's 2 points to that. One is you're doing the best you can. And by the way, when we met in Las Vegas,
Right.
I don't recall who was late, but there's always one person later than the other. I don't know who it was. And by the way, there's no finger pointing here. But my point is, if you were 10 minutes late, I'm just happy you're there. And if I was late, we had a great meeting because we both were excited to meet each other.
Right.
And when you make an equal sign that someone's late to they disrespect me, you cause someone to actually be disadvantaged to actually be in the gift that they are. And I I love my mom for saying everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. I had a principle that said when you get a kid in your room, that kid that you have in the room is the best kid that mom and dad could produce. Best. And even though they might have lots of things to work on, that was their best. So the point is be grateful for what you get because then you can build on that gratitude. And the other thing, which I love the most,
Uh huh.
I am on point, by the way, Robert. And when I have someone that's late for me on an appointment, guess what I love? Is the fact that I can be gracious to them and not judgmental to them. And guess what happens? They shift into, wow, that's so kind of you not to judge me for being late. I did the best I could. And what happens is conversion. Because when you judge someone, man, you're late, or you think they're late, or you act like they're late, you cause that to be repulsive, not to be acceptance. Acceptance causes people to say, wow, I did the best I could. And you're actually accepting the fact I did the best I could. I've never been late to a meeting where I didn't do the best I could. Subconsciously, yes. Subconsciously, I could have done better. Period. I mean, we can always do better.
Uh huh. Uh-huh. Very interesting. Hmm. I'm just kind of digesting what you're saying a little bit. It's that's what's fun about doing this. The conversation was didn't necessarily expect to have, but it doesn't really matter because it's exactly what's right. It is actually my philosophy what you're sharing, but it's not. Sometimes, in my business, let's say as an attorney, I'm constantly having to do all sorts of things on a time basis, and I try to have the same philosophy you have, and I would say I do a lot of times, but it's still that doesn't mean that I may not feel frustration or one thing or another inside of myself. So would you say that even you don't even feel that inside of yourself ever most of the time?
Almost never. And I'll tell you why. There's a second part to this, which is the business side, which is the exciting part. You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm listening.
So when a client's late for me, and I'm talking 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes late for a Zoom or a face-to-face meeting, guess what I do?
What?
Caught up on all the things I'm not getting caught up on. I read emails. I do text. I mean, I'm not sitting there going, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life while I'm waiting for this person.
Uh
I'm
huh.
doing all these things. So I actually thank the person that they're late because I got caught up on things. Can you imagine? Let's say you're late for 20 minutes, Robert. I say,
Right.
Robert, and you start off with, I'm so sorry I'm late. And I go, don't apologize. I just got caught up on so many things. Thank you.
That's a nice attitude.
And by the way, it's real. You just actually gave me a window to get caught up.
That's actually a beautiful way to approach that because my wife and I have talked about the whole time issue many, many times, and different people approach time very, very different.
Totally.
It's funny, even whole cultures are very, very different. I've traveled a lot in different parts of the world, and in Latin America, if you say you pick me up at 6, you'll be lucky if they show up at 7, and they don't think there's anything wrong about it. That's just
Right.
you said 6, maybe 7. It's funny. I lived in Mexico City with a doctor and his family when I was a teenager. I remember the doctor saying that down there they all have such a different philosophy of time. One of the problems they have is that nobody shows up at the same time to do the surgery. So, hey, Ernie, how you doing? So they're all sitting there waiting. Oh, when's this doctor going to get here? When's the anesthesiologist going to get here? So it's just a whole different approach to the whole story than we have here in this country.
Very
And
much. And there's African time too, and they even boast on it. They say, "Oh, we're having our wedding at from 6 to 10 African time, 8 to 12," and you have to know that.
um, it's funny you mentioned that also. It's funny. I went to a wedding. It's actually with somebody who worked in the radio. This goes back a number of years now, and he was marrying a black woman, and the wedding was supposed to start at 7. So we all got there at 7. We're all standing around. He says, I don't know where she is. So then it's 7:30. I don't know where she is. 8 o'clock. I don't know what's happening. And everybody's thinking, oh, that's too bad. He's getting stood up at his own wedding. At 8:30, they came driving in this car. A whole bunch of people piled into this car. So the wedding, we ended up having a fun wedding and a big party, and but it all started an hour and a half later than what we were expecting.
Do you know where she was from?
Where she was from,
Yes.
I don't know. No, I actually don't know. As a matter, only no, just that she's African American. So that's all I really know. And so it's like you said, it's that part of their approach towards time in that culture.
I'm just telling you, the African versus the American African, it can be quite different. And I've done weddings. I've been to 104 countries, and I've noticed that there's just different time discrepancies. And they even point and to themselves, and they say, "Oh, we're on Caribbean time, or we're on African time, or whatever." But African American, not so much as that culture of leisure. The
Uh huh.
leisure is happen when it's supposed to happen.
Uh huh. Well, it was a funny experience to go through because it turned out to be a lot of fun. Actually, the whole party was great. But for a long time, this guy thought, oh, he'd been stood up. Everybody's sort of feeling bad for him. And then it seemed like she wasn't going to show
What
up at
race
all. And
was
he kept calling and didn't know what happened to her. Anyway,
where was he from?
he's from here. Just grew up here.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
my friend Ernie, by the way, who's listening to us, who'll be on the show later on. He grew up in India. He's posted on FaceTime. He says Indian time too.
Yes, there is
So,
Indian time.
so that's true, Ernie, in India. That's funny. I could huh. Maybe I'll have you come on a little bit early tonight, Ernie. It might be fun for you to talk with him a little bit too. Ernie and I have been working for a long time together doing this show, and Ernie is a ordained minister also, just like I am, and he also is a school teacher too, and he like all of us. He anyway he's a very he's a lot of devotion in what he does, and he and I have been doing this along with one of my other friends, the show for a long, long time. So it is kind of funny. We're actually I'm keeping track of the time. We'll have to go to our second break, but
Well,
we'll
let me ask
stay.
you a question.
Yeah,
My, I don't normally do shows at 9:30 my time at time. Can I bring my son just to say goodnight real quick?
sure.
Can you say goodnight real quick? Because he's an author of 14 books. And
Oh, there he is.
although he's about to go to bed, I just want to say thank you for having us. And you want to say anything? This is Mr. Sidell.
Oh, Um,
Well, why don't you tell what you're passionate about real quick?
oh yeah,
Look at
I am grew an interest and some new ones just came
how much do you
yesterday.
spend on them?
Uh, a little much money.
Tell me. Tell Robert.
About $150.
Wow.
$150 you spend on ants. And by the way, how many ants?
Uh, seven, but
Seven ants.
six were alive.
Really? Wow, that's
One of them is,
amazing.
yeah.
So you had an ant
So
farm?
Oh yeah.
he's growing one, yes,
I
and he's growing an ant business.
I had an ant farm as a kid. I'll have to talk to you more about this. I used to like having ant farms, so it was kind of fun. We're going to go to a break
Well,
right now. We can keep talking to you for a second on the break if you want. If you want to stay and keep talking, well, I'll talk to you about ant farms for a second. And then for those of you on the radio, we'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second. So, I'm sorry, what's your first name again, young man?
Kenny.
Kenny?
Yeah.
So, Kenny, um, how did you? So, I didn't know you could spend that much money on ants. So, there are different kinds of ants to buy?
Yeah.
Tell me what kinds you got.
I got an African shiny a sugar ant, a big headed ant, a yellow meadow ant, a European fire ant, a European harvester ant, a
What was the most expensive ant?
the shiny African sugar ant.
So, does that mean can they all be together? Do you have one of those kind of flat things with sand in the middle of it, or is it something different?
I don't. They're right now. They're in tubes. They're
Tubes.
too small.
How in the world did you get into collecting ants?
Oh, I don't know. I just found them interesting.
How old are you?
I'm 11.
Huh.
He's written 14 books, and this is his 12th book.
I saw
And
that picture before. I recognized him
so
from
for
that
his birthday, what does it say in Ellie? My wife says for his birthday, he got ants and spent $270. $270 for his
on
birthday.
ants. I have
Yes.
to say um, that you're probably one of the few kids in your age group that spends money on ants. I'm just guessing, but maybe
Oh,
there are, and I don't know about
it's
it.
no, it's way less than 1%. How how you doing? So he might write his 15th book on the King of Ants. I'm trying to convince him because I'm trying to market him as a kid. He spends 3 hours a day, right? Roughly with your ants.
Yeah, but like I would say like two.
He plays the cello, the piano. He's in Boy Scouts, all these lovely things. The reason I wanted you to meet him is
Uh-huh.
because this is the magic time that he goes to bed, and I wanted you to know he's one of the inspirations for me doing my 60th book.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, you look like a nice young man, and like I said, this is a funny little coincidence, but I was literally talking to my wife just a week or two ago. I don't remember why it came up, but that I had an ant farm as a kid. I had a couple ant farms, but then that's a little, probably quite a bit different than what you have, I'm guessing. But have you ever seen those ant farms where they're just like
Yep.
little between two pieces of plastic, and you can see them cut, making their little world in there?
Yeah.
Well, if we're allowed to publish Robert's book, I'll allocate some of the monies to your ant farm collection. How about that?
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
He
Well,
he wrote a book. He wrote a book when the pandemic happened, and he
yeah.
keeps writing and writing and writing. So, 14 books. I mean, that's more than most people can say they did.
Well, he's written 14 books so far.
Yeah, and President Biden sent him a letter, right,
Yeah. For my America.
for his book on America.
Wow, you're accomplishing a lot. Yeah,
Well, Robert, go ahead.
I'm excited for you. Oh, we're about to go back on the air again, but
Yep.
this will still be on the recording, by the way. This conversation too.
Let's say good night,
Good night.
Mr. Robert.
Good night. God bless you. You're a nice young man. That's fun. Good evening, Mr. Robert Sidell. Welcome you back to the Gateway Show. It's a pleasure to be with you here on this Sunday evening. I'm interviewing Ken Roschon. I was just interviewing his son also, who likes to collect ants. That's a new one to me. It does bring me back to my own childhood, however. And this guy just said, "Great job, young man." Somebody posted that on Facebook. I used to have, I had an ant farm as a kid. It just reminds me when you're young, you think anything's possible, and you can be excited almost about anything. And my dream as I've moved through life is to keep having that same sense of excitement and
Mm-hmm.
keep cultivating. That's what I call the miracle minded consciousness, that possibilities that you could never imagine are coming into your lives that are better than you could possibly dream of. So even having this little interview with him, hearing him talk about his different ants, Sonny, anyway, a lot of different thoughts went through my mind. But the bottom line is, it's very fascinating. I will have to talk to him again sometime. It's very interesting to think that he's exploring the world of ants and what they do and how to raise them and all that kind of thing. Huh? That's pretty amazing.
Well, he lit up with you, by the way, because he could have actually gone a lot longer. If you want to talk about ants, he could take over the show. I would have been pushed aside.
Well, it's pretty interesting. It is actually sincerely interesting to me because, like I said, it does bring back memories to me. One of the things I was just attended the 1 year birthday party for my grandchild today. So he just turned 1 year old.
Mm.
And it's, you look at the little children, of course, he doesn't really know what to make of any of it, right? And at all. It's just all these people there, and he doesn't know what to make of it at all. But the bottom line is he's having a lot of fun. And it just reminds me that when we're young, if we are fortunate to have a good, healthy upbringing, we have a lot of love coming to us, and we're surrounded by love, right, Leroy or Ernie? And so I was asking my son yesterday. We were on a long drive. Oh, hey Tim, how you doing? Ken? Do you know Tim Gillette? He just said to
I
say hi
do.
to you.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
You know what I
well,
love about him? He's solution based. He always cares about someone winning. I love that guy.
oh, did you hear that, Tim? He's saying nice things about you. Well, I like Tim too. He's a nice person. Uh, the friends of our lives are what make life worth living. I'm absolutely convinced of it. It's for all of us. It's got to be. We have to keep reaching out. I was just talking to somebody. I went to stop by Costco before I came over here, and I was talking. I get to know these ladies that give out samples, and this lady was telling me that actually it's funny the different experiences that we have as people. She got she's from Nicaragua, so she had a chance to go back to Nicaragua, and she was talking to me a few months ago. She was so excited because it was the first time she'd been back for many years, and she was had this dream of returning back home. And I was thinking to myself, I didn't want to say too much because but I had a feeling it might not turn out the way she expected, because it's a hard thing to have it turn out the way you expect when you've been away that long. So then she did go to Nicaragua, and when she came back, she was it wasn't the way she expected. What can I say? It had changed a lot in all those years. But my point is, but she and I were visiting tonight, and you know what? There's love everywhere. She's a very kind soul. We were just visiting about the different possibilities of life, and so I think wherever we are at every moment, there's a possibility of magic and wonder, and you got to keep that wonder and excitement going. I know, and what she said to me is, she says she has to do that job because she says she can't just sit home and do nothing. She says it's not exciting enough to her. She says she needs some kind of purpose. So I think, but I think that we all need a purpose. Everybody listening needs a purpose. It's funny. I think we all dream that if we just didn't have to do anything, we'd be happier. Somewhere in the back of our minds, we think that maybe you don't even think that, Ken. But really, then I think to myself, my work is fun. I'm always meeting a lot of interesting people. I just got back from a law conference in California. Just came back yesterday, and I met a lot of great people, and it just keeps life exciting. I saw my dad practice medicine for 60 years. He didn't actually retire completely till he was 90 years old. Can you believe that? That means you're 60 now, right? If I remember right, you said something about that,
Mhm.
something close to that, or something. Anyway,
Six-
that's just think that's 50% longer than your whole life, and that he still had in front of him at your age. And none of us know, including me, what my length is on this earth. But I'm very committed to the idea that the best is yet to come. And that's why it was fun talking with your son, because when you're really young like that, you can really lose yourself in the wonder of ants or whatever it might be,
And
and
by the way, the wonder of wonder.
the wonder of wonder. And that's really it. I mean, when I was that age, I was reading all these books by Tom Swift. Did you ever read any Tom Swift books? I don't know if you ever did or not.
And
Well,
I
it's
guess
funny because we had a series that were the original series was published in the early 1900s. Believe it or not, I'm not that old, but we had an old series, and they had books like this. A few of you, like Leroy, he might even remember. I'm just teasing; he's listening, but a few of you might remember they had books like um, Tom Swift and his amazing lit torch or something, and that was the word for a flashlight. And that in the early 1900s, that was real exciting. Hey, we have a flashlight, and or his amazing uh, military machine, which was a tank, and his amazing flying machine. And so it was all from a very primitive point of view about it all, but he was all excited about these possibilities. And so to me, I work on kind of trying to stay excited about the possibilities of life. And the world, I'm convinced, the one thing, Ken, I'm convinced of, and I think you are too, just what I know of you already, is that there's 1,000, maybe 1,000,000 things I don't know about life, maybe infinite with what I don't know. But the one thing I do know is a supreme gift to be alive. That's one thing I know.
And I actually want to say that I wouldn't be an author if it wasn't my mom getting dementia and being a caregiver and having Alzheimer's and culminating in her passing. But I wrote my first book a year after she left. And my son, who I think I might have shown this during a break, but he wrote his 10th book. Well, this was his 10-year book, but he wrote it as his 12th book. He'd already written 12 books during his 10th year. And it caused me to write my 60th book on my 60th year. And I had to write 15 books in about 2 years. So it was a lot of work. And by the way, they're not my best works, but my point is I stepped up. But Tim Gillette, I want to say something about him. He is the ultimate team player, the ultimate person that solves problems, puts out fires, and causes people like Greg Duswalt, who I just went to his event, to shine. Because anytime you got a superstar, whether it's you or me or Kenny, you have to have people behind you that say, I believe in you, I see your value, and I want to follow you, and I want your purpose to actually exist and make impact. And so I just want to say I'm so proud, but this is our very first book we published with Craig. But I just have such a love for Tim. And the reason for that is because every time anything ever happened, he'd come over to me, or he would actually just solve it. And it's very quiet. He just says, "This is how we do it so we can make the event more powerful." And that's a very, very important person. I uh I just have so much to say about the beginning of our conversation, one being busy. It's a very dangerous word to use, the word busy. Busy means that you can't control your time. Busy means that you can't actually accept another opportunity. So think about this, Robert. If you said, "I want to have a podcast with you," and I said, "I'm just too busy, Robert," I would
Right.
miss an opportunity to be on this call with you. I'd miss an opportunity to have my son on this call with you. I'd miss an opportunity to actually have a conversation with you. I'd miss an opportunity to actually talk about how important Tim is. And what I mean by that is to say, drop the word busy and learn to actually find priorities. Robert, you're so important. For 2 weeks, we've been trying to make this show happen, and I wanted to make it happen. So I said, "This week." And you said, "No, it's going to have to be next week." And we made it happen today. And it's because it was important.
Well, and I really appreciate that. And I do truly believe that there are certain habits we can get into that greatly dramatically increase our chance of success in life. And I'm one of those people too, like just like going to this law conference I went to in Southern California. Um, I just, I was busy, but I made time to go there. And I made all sorts of good connections that will be very valuable to my life, my career, my family, and everything, the whole story. In addition to which being a lot of fun, just pure fun. And so I'm a big believer, like you said, uh, you got to get sort of the default setting. That's in that book, The Gateway, which I'll show you again just one time. I know you've seen
By
it
the way,
before.
I love this book. I don't have it handy, and I would love to show it as well. I'm telling you, that book is brilliant, Robert. I love that book.
Thank you for saying that. I've had so many people tell me virtually all the time I hear stories that it's changed people's lives for the better, which is something I think in our hearts we want to do. But one of the principles in that book is called the say yes principle, which is make your default saying yes to new opportunities. However, with one caveat, there's sometimes I even, in the newest version of the book, including the one I just showed you, I put a section in that says there are times to obey a no also. Oh, Leroy is saying it's a great book. Thanks, Leroy. It's we want to, but our human nature is to, oh, I really don't want to do it. It's extra time, whatever it might be, and so we make up these stories, and our life shrinks up, dries up, and we don't know what happened. But on the other hand, if you just keep saying yes, yes, yeah, it's going to take extra time. I don't know what to do. Oh, my friend Andy just got on the phone. And Andy, I mean, on the radio, he's listening on Facebook. He says, if you notice you're too busy, prioritize saying yes to opportunities. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. This is great. Getting a lot of good advice. Actually, you know what? I'm an ordained minister. I know I told you this before, Ken, but and the lady who ordained me as minister says we meet by divine appointment. So tonight, this is your and my divine appointment, and it was God's message to me and anybody else who chooses to listen to this now or the recording later on. And I know there are people listening to the recording later on too, because you know what? This life is a supreme gift. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that it's about impact. Like if you look at your life as busy, you're looking at your life as not impactful, because technically you can't take on anything that would actually be important because you're too busy. Like, let's say someone says, "I have $1 billion to give you, or $1 million to give you." You go, "I'm too busy." It's too busy, right? But the point is, move the word from busy to productive. And when you're productive, you actually look at how you can actually enhance your life and other people's lives. And Robert, I enjoyed our conversation. And believe it or not, during our conversation in Las Vegas, I was supposed to be somewhere else, and I was supposed to be at an event.
Uh-huh.
But you were so important. I wasn't busy, and I was being productive by being with you. And that's the point: is choose to be productive, and you actually cause it.
Well, Ken, I love that. You're contributing to me once again. We have to go to a break, but you and I can keep talking on this break.
Yes.
Show's a little bit shorter than usual, so it's the perfect time, right? Because that first segment we didn't have. But so stay with me. We'll keep talking, Ken. The rest of you on the radio will be back in about 10 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll also have Reverend Ernie will be there with us to share a prayer. So I just want you to know he'll be coming on Zoom as well in a second. So stay tuned with us. We'll be back in a moment, folks. It's Robert Sidell and Ken Roschon, too. Good. It's working.
So I have a couple of guests I'd like to. I don't know if you're looking for guests, but I have this amazing guy who created this way of actually causing you to feel better and eat
You know what's
better.
happening now? They've turned the
Yes.
volume so loud, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay.
So
I have 3 guests for you.
great. I'd love to. I'd love that. I would love it. So what we'll do. So Ken, it's funny. I've kind of learned how to do this. It's loud going into my ears, the whole stuff that's going out over the radio. I somehow learned to tune it out and still try to hear you, but it's so loud tonight, it's a little hard for me to do that. But
Gotcha.
but I want you to know, I really appreciate what you're sharing with me tonight. It is something God needed me to. I'm always listening. I mean, I finally at age 72 now, I'm at a point where I'm realizing I live totally by God's grace. You know, it's without grace I have nothing,
Right.
and it allows me to be more humble. And that's what I'm really working on as a human being, is learning how to stay more humble, be open to God's possibilities. I know there's beautiful good waiting for all of us on this earth, and that's what my dream is to see that unfold to more people, right?
Yep.
Oh, here comes Ernie right now. Oh, there's Janet. Oh, great. Oh, good. Can you
Yeah, we
see
got
them
the
coming
whole-
on too?
I do. It's awesome.
Hold on. Oh, there we go.
Hey, I'm glad you're both on there. Hey, Ernie, how you doing?
Ernest,
So,
that's
can
probably
you
one
hear
of
me,
the best
Ernie?
names you could have. Right?
Hi. Hello.
So, Ernie, they have Indian time too? Is that what you were saying?
Yes. Indian time, yes.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Janet performs weddings a lot. Well, so Ernie does sometimes too. But so Janet, how do you handle time? I bet some people are more on time than others. How does that work for you?
Oh, well, we're fine. What are you going to do? I just wait till they get there, or they have to wait till I get there because I drive to many places. So sometimes I'll get stuck in some traffic, you know?
And do people,
Good.
how do they respond to that a lot of times? Not so much you being there, but I mean, even in their own situation.
What do you mean?
I mean, do they,
Tell me what.
when they're a little bit late or this or that, how does that affect their state of mind?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, because it's their wedding day, I think that, people are kind of selfish in their thinking about that, I think. And so I don't know that it affects most people too much. If you
That's
know what I
great.
mean. You know what I'm saying? They're just in their own little world.
Well,
Yeah,
the
it's
world
probably
is
true.
simply love.
What's
Okay.
that?
I
Hold
said
on,
the
we're going
world
back
is
in the radio.
simply
Just
love.
1 second here.
Yeah.
Hold on. Good evening, this is Robert Sidell. Welcome you back to the Gateway Show on 6 to 7 p.m. live on the #1 talk station in Las Vegas. Also simulcasting on Facebook. And now I'm the lucky man that has Ken Roschon with us here, sharing a lot of interesting insights that have been valuable for me to hear. And then Reverend Ernie and Reverend Janet, who often share. Each of them have a unique story. Janet performs a lot of weddings, and I know she brings a very unique quality to when she does that. So in all sorts of ways, right? She could tell you a lot of stories, believe me, about some of her weddings.
Yeah, I have stories today, but another day.
Yeah,
I just got home. I just came in the door from Circus.
Awesome.
Interesting. And then Reverend Ernie, he came here when he was 18 years old or so. He got sponsored.
Yes,
His
was
family
18
got
to-
sponsored here, right? Something like that.
Right. My dad brought me here. Yes.
And so his whole life changed because a church chose to sponsor his family to come to the United States. So if not, we would have never met, and he wouldn't be here on this show. But he's been doing this with me we don't really like to think of how long. It's starting to add up to some time, isn't it, Ernie? And Janet, too. How long have we been doing this, Janet and Ernie? Or do you know, Ernie, you've kept more track than me, I think.
Well, we've been doing this for myself with you, 11 years, over 11.
I know. I'm almost afraid to have you say that. It's kind of weird to think about that, isn't it? I mean, time doesn't stop, does it? It just keeps going. And I think you've been doing it that full time too, Janet, right? I mean, I think you've been doing it that full time also, maybe even longer. I don't know. You and I have been friends longer than that. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we used to go to the radio show, remember? Oh,
Yeah,
what
we used to
happened?
always, we used to, Chen, we used, whoops, you were better before, Janet. Whatever you did, it was better.
Oh, I went to
Yeah, like
move.
that. Like
I'm
that.
back.
That's good.
He's back.
Before, we used to do this from the station all the time, but by doing it Zoom, it does save quite a bit of time for all of us, doesn't it? So, and in that respect, it's nice, I think. So I don't know if any of you, either of you got to hear Ken, but Ken sounds like a very interesting person. Plus, he's a young son who likes to collect ants. So any kid that likes ants is a friend of mine. Except unless they let a fire ant out by me, I don't know if I'd like that or not.
No,
But
not a fire ant, or not a bullet ant, actually. I did want to apologize to you, Robert. You asked me probably to introduce myself, and I didn't do a great job of that because I talked about what we were sharing, which was patience and busy. But I do want to say, in case the show ends in the next hour, I want to say the most important thing is I so appreciate the fact that you took the leap of faith and you made a book. And that book is so amazing. And it's a shame, but most people don't have the luck or the marketing or the fortitude or even the I'll call it relentlessness to cause the book to have impact. And so with that said, 99% of people that do a book, they feel like a failure because they thought that their writing wasn't good enough or their authorship wasn't good enough or whatever. And it's about the marketing not happening.
mhm.
I don't care who you're voting for president or what you're trying to build in the world. If you don't have a marketing mechanism, they're probably not going to succeed. And so I'm excited about your message actually reaching more people. And if you have read Malcolm Gladwell, you'll understand that Outliers, Tipping Point, David and Goliath, all the amazing books he has, it's about actually the marketing and the fortitude and the relentlessness you have of having your message hit the world. And that's why my son has done 14 books, or I've done 60 books, and why you're going to do many more books is because you believe that your message is so important. You put a marketing campaign behind it.
That's beautiful, Ken. That's beautiful. I love that. I really, really do. All right. And by the way, Ernie has a great book too. What's the name of your book, Ernie, again?
Oh, yes. It's called How to Create Your Own Heaven on Earth. I don't know if you can see that. That's it. It's right there.
Yeah,
It's
lift it up a little.
hold it up a little higher. Yeah. It's a book with prayers in it, right? It's mostly prayers, isn't it, Ernie?
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of those prayers, I think you actually did first on the show, didn't you? I think you did. Maybe you did some of them otherwise too. And
I
then
would like to send you my book. So I'd like to send both of you my book. I put my information in there, so just text me. You know, the most powerful thing you can do is give your book away to people that care.
Yeah, giving you probably remember I gave you an Expect a Miracle card the night we met.
100%.
And when I was down there at this law conference, I saw this nice lady walking along. She was actually not even part of my conference, and I gave her one of my cards. And then I didn't see her again. I don't even know who she is, but I got an email about 30 minutes later, and she goes, I really needed that card. Thank you so much. Isn't that funny? And I don't know her name or anything, but it's just kind of amazing. There you go. Keep smiling. So you're doing the same kind of thing as I am. That's fun. All right, I'm going to keep staying with us, okay? I'm going to let Reverend Ernie he has prepared a prayer for us. So go ahead and share your prayer with us tonight, Ernie.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Okay, the prayer topic is, what is the book you're creating as your life? We are each authors of our own story. Okay. Dear God, we give gratitude and thanks for giving us this miraculous life and guiding through walk in life. We pray that we open our hearts to believe in the infinite love and power of our Creator. We have complete trust in God to walk with us and protecting us in our journey, and us being responsible for our decisions and actions. Guide us to be in awareness, to acknowledge our existence and way of life by trusting great divine spirit, and which in turn inspires our daily life to experience love, joy, happiness, compassion, and prosperity. We pray for each one of us to have trust in our Creator, the book that we create, that everyone in this world will experience, creating heaven on earth. And so it is. Amen.
Beautiful, Ernie. Isn't that a nice prayer, Ken? Yeah,
Beautiful.
Ernie always takes a lot of time, and so does Janet too. So Janet, what she has a
Well,
little. No, you do your own unique thing, Janet. They're two different things.
tonight, because I was coming home from circus, I didn't know that was going to happen. So that was kind
Oh,
of
you know what?
interesting.
Let me say something. You know
This
what?
time.
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing it with you, but I have to complete. We'll do it. It'll be on Facebook. It won't be. So just stay with me. We'll keep going for a minute. Those of you on the
Okay.
radio, God bless you all. Remember, God is real. Miracles are real, and for that reason, the best is yet to come. God bless you all. Until next week. But for those of you on Facebook or listening to the recording, we'll stick together with the three of others and myself. So stay with us. Just give me a few seconds here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please feel free to share your information.
So Owen, if you can hear me, if you can turn off the cut off the feed to me, that would be good. Just one second.
Ernest, where were you born?
He didn't hear you.
Ernest, where were you born?
Hold on. I just was
Can
trying
you
to.
not hear you?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
I can hear you, but I don't.
I think you all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that what's happening is I'm getting a lot of feedback in my ears. Is all. That's the only thing holding me up. I'm trying to get them to. I'm applying the philosophy you shared, Ken. Relaxed philosophy. It's so. Because I'm trying to get them to shut this off because it's feeding into my ears, and that way it's hard for me to hear you guys. But I'm going to still keep trying to go anyway for a moment. So, Janet, go ahead and share some inspiration with us right now.
Well, I was just saying that because I was longer at circus than I thought I was going to be, but that's okay. I had fun. It was French couples, and I was renewing their vows. So I wore Western clothes because they were coming back from Valley of Fire. So because it's called the Hitchin' Post, so I thought I'd have fun with it. But anyhow, interesting. You asked me to wait just now because I was going to read something from Daily Word calling I let go and trust divine timing. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is wait. Modern life has conditioned me to expect things to happen quickly and to think I must always be doing something to keep moving in the direction of my dreams. But the process of manifestation involves so much more than my efforts and desire alone. I cannot force or rush divine timing. I trust the good comes into my life, arrives in the right way and at the right time. I remind myself of this when I begin to feel impatient or restless because I am not doing enough. Sometimes the only thing left to do is to let go, let God, and wait. Patience comes easier when I trust the grace and goodness of God, active in the world and in my life, always and forever. And then from Psalm, wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. The end.
You know, it is interesting. Without any real coordination, Ken, and notice how their prayers totally tied into what you were sharing. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
It is.
All I mentioned to them is that you are an author, and I gave that general, but the idea of focusing on time and things in the right timing, that was God's involvement in all this. And, you know, I really, yes, each of you, both Janet and Ernie. Janet, by the way, did a special gift to my family also because she was like my dad's caretaker the last 3 years of his life. And when he lived here in Las Vegas, and she would go in 5 days a week at least, right? And often long hours, and you'd read poetry and all sorts of things, right? She really. I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I did. Well, because he had macular degeneration too, right?
Right.
So I read his favorite stuff to him. Yes.
It's interesting. My dad mentioned to me. I know he said it to you also. He felt like your presence made a big difference, and also he thanked me too. He says you made the last year's my life much nicer, and that's a nice thing to be able to feel like you can do in life. So it's just a gift to, and so you made a big gift to our family, and then Ernie, you've made a big gift because you shared a lot of beautiful prayers with people all these years, and I always say God's got to listen to these prayers, Ernie does. He just has he has no choice, but he has to answer them. But anyway, Ken, it's fun hearing your vision and your idea of kind of trusting the flow of things. That's a beautiful. It's it's a beautiful, beautiful approach to things. And sometimes I probably am better at it than other times. Um,
I want
so
to share.
go
I share
ahead.
one. So I wish I could remember the monk's name, and I apologize first of all for not remembering, but secondly, I don't even know how to pronounce it. So I'll just say I will give every book that I showed on the show, and I'll also give the diagram and the link to this. But it was the most pleasurable 5-letter word in the world is smile, and um, he goes into what led him to smile at the highest level, which my PhD is on SPH. How many smiles per hour are you giving to yourself? How many are you giving to the world? What's your SPH? And this monk said, do you have a problem? And if it's no, then why are you worrying? And do you have a problem? And if it's yes, and can you do anything about it? No, then why worry? And then do you have a problem? And if it's yes, and you can do something about it, then why worry? And so the essence of this monk's message, and actually a very wise person, is why are you worrying about life? Enjoy it.
That's beautiful. And that's a beautiful message. It really, really is, Ken. And I think it's just a great message. That's all I'm going to say. It's a practice and an art. I suppose for me, one of the things I've realized that life is an art.
Yes.
We can, just like riding a bicycle, we have to learn how to do it, right? We can talk about it, but it's different to know how to write it than to talk about writing it, right? So what you're talking about is it takes an art. And it sounds like somehow that maybe is a gift your mother shared with you or something. And if you're able to maintain that even a significant amount of time, it sounds like it's going to make your life a much happier experience.
Well, it's actually a choice too. And the point is, would you choose to be in anxiety for things you can't control, or would you rather be in peace for things that you have no control of and enjoy it?
Yeah, when you put it that way, makes a lot of sense. What do you think, Janet? It sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
I
Yep.
mean, can I cut in one more second,
Yeah.
Janet? Just one. So Robert, you handle people's problems, and it's interesting, but you handle people's big problems. They could be the difference of whether they'll be abundant or not abundant, the difference of whether they have a problem that will cause the rest of their life to be painful or not. And I just want to applaud you that you are a thinker that causes justice, and you also cause people to have hopefully the life they should have had if they had a problem. And I just want to say, you would rather have someone that comes to you and says, I trust you, and I'm going to believe that you can do the greatest things possible, and you do it, rather than someone that doubts you and is in anxiety and causing you all this drama that doesn't allow you to actually think about the solution.
Well, that's true, and I will say that quite a few people actually say we trust you, and I always appreciate that. But also I do. It's also a responsibility too. It just happens to work out that way also. But
But the responsibility, I think, is yielded by the piece of your power to make a difference.
the responsibility is what did you say?
Responsibility is fueled by the
Oh,
peace that they actually give, empowering you to say, I trust you, do your best. And then you say, wow, I really will perform now. Like it's a
well,
higher level.
you know what? That is what I do, and I want you to know that's you summarize very what I do in these different kind of cases, and so if I didn't have faith in God, I don't think I could do what I do. But luckily, I do have faith in God by God's grace. What'd you say?
Your book illustrates that. That's why I want to represent you, because your book has the message that actually causes people to be powerful. and at peace.
Power and peace. That sounds pretty good, right, Janet? Power and
even
peace.
better, purposeful.
And what was the last thing?
Purposeful.
And purposeful. Yeah, we need a purpose. And, it's funny, as we get older, I think that almost becomes more true because a lot of people retire, and God bless them. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, it could be a wonderful gift, but you have to somehow find a new purpose if your purpose before was working. And like I say, for my dad, he worked pretty much till he was 90. And you showed up in his life when he was like 95 or 6, didn't you, Janet? It was something like that.
96.
Really? Well, Janet, I apologize for cutting you off. I did not want to. It was a.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
Well, please interject. Please interject because I don't want to cut anyone off. I
want to tell you
say,
something interesting, Ken. Janet probably shares your philosophy, the way she lives, more than most people. Wouldn't you say, Janet? Kind of going with the flow?
Yes.
I mean, like I said, I've known her now for about 35 or 40 years, somewhere in that neighborhood anyway. It's been a long time. But, and Ernie does too. I think, and he's, it's so funny because Ernie's, he's like 78 or something like that, right? I think it's probably even older, but we don't want to talk about it right now. But I was going to say, but he does such a good job that they want him to keep giving him more classes to teach, right? At school. Is that what happens to you, Ernie?
Yeah, you're right. Every day they want me to be there.
where were you born, Ernie?
I'm sorry?
Where were you born?
I was born in India.
I know, but what part?
Oh, it's in the western part of India, a town called Nagpur. Nagpur.
Nagpur?
Yes.
You speak Hindi?
Yes, I do speak Hindi.
आप कैसे है?
ठीक है.
Hey,
I lived in India for 1 year.
You lived in India 1 year?
Yeah, it was a very formidable year. It was my fifth year of life. It was my first year in school, kindergarten.
Really?
And I was a white kid in a completely Indian school, wearing the white shirt, the red tie, the blue trousers, the metal case. And I just want to say, your country has so many beautiful aspects to it. One being hospitality. I never felt I was different, although it was evident I was different. And I grew to love the Indian culture. And I lived for 1 year with no chair, no silverware, and eating with my hands and feeling like I was a king because the food was amazing.
Huh. You're making me think. It's funny. I've never, even though I studied with some Indian teachers, I've never actually been to India, so I haven't quite decided. Who knows? Whether it's everything one step at a time.
Well, all 4 of us are going to go to India in 2025. How about that?
Maybe.
Sounds exciting.
You know what?
The Taj Mahal is calling our name for 2025.
I might just do that. I think it's funny you say that, 'cause I don't know if you saw this in my book. You probably didn't see this, but I remember somebody saying, attended one of my seminars, the lady said, I want to go to China. And somehow, this goes back way a long time ago in the early 90s. And somehow before the end of that year, we all went to Hong Kong together. And we had no plans when she said that. And suddenly it turned into a trip to Hong Kong. And that was a lot of fun, which is an amazing experience. Maybe we will all be going to India. I never can tell.
By the way, I've seen every wonder of the world except for the Taj Mahal. So I am excited about that possibility and prospect with you guys.
You just never know. I'm open-minded. May God's will be done. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, we're just coming to the end of our show here, but this has been a wonderful day for me. Like I say, it was the 1-year party of my first grandchild, and it was a lot of fun, and my son set up a real beautiful party, did a real beautiful, set everything up very nicely. Oh, but my friend Leroy says, have a nice trip to us.
Leroy's a good person, by the way. A very good person. I've heard his name several times in your show. So he is an advocate.
There you go. Did you hear that, Leroy? So if all of you listening on Facebook or listening to this recording later on, I just want you to know that it's been a lot of fun to be together. And Ken, it's a great pleasure to have you here tonight. And thank you, Janet and Ernie. Oh, Leroy says true. Leroy, you got a good sense of humor. I like that. So Ken, may God bless and watch over you and your nice, your beautiful little son, who's a very creative young kid. Like I said, what could go wrong with a kid who loves ants? Look at that. Conversations. Look at that. Wow, look at that.
Oh, wow.
He's a sweet
And
little.
by the way, the two of you can have these books for free. Just connect with me. And by the way, Robert, thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for being an advocate for and actually an inspiration for people to play big. You are really a beautiful person. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and so are Ernie and Janet. They both make a big difference. They made time in their schedule to do the show for. And Ernie just heard Ernie say for 11 years now. And we started for a long time. We would go down to the radio station, but then after COVID, we switched to doing it from home, and probably it's a little bit easier this way. Sometimes I still miss a little bit going to the radio station, but I don't know if I'd want to spend that extra time doing that. That's the funny part. But so listen, I just want to, for anybody listening on that happens to be listening to this recording later on, and we want you to know that we support you. And, except I'll do a little marketing you always talk about. There's my book again, The Gateway. And by the way, if you're in Vegas and if you're interested in that book, you can come by and get a copy of it for free if you come by my office. Just call me at Robert Sidell, law offices Robert Sidell. And just look me up at LasVegasAttorney.com and you can come by and pick up a free copy. So anyway, my friends, God bless you. Ken, God bless you and your family. And then and Ernie. And Janet, I thank you so much for spending time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. And I've learned a lot tonight, so that's a great blessing. So you guys, all of you take care of you. I'll be in touch with you, Ken, and I'll be talking to both of you too. So God bless you all.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
God bless.
Have a good week.
All right, take care of yourselves.
Bye.
I'm gonna book a flight to get another free copy. All
There
right?
you go.
So Janet, I hope you reach out, and Ernie, Ernest, I would love to send you both books. You guys are
Okay.
Okay, that
Thank you.
sounds good.
Thank
That
you.
sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste.
Thank you, Robert. Namaste.
Namaste.
And I'm going to say thank you, Ernie. It's nice to say that. I appreciate that. God bless you guys. Take care of yourselves.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.